Welcome to Sportsworld from Paris, France, which is preparing to host one of the biggest events in this year's sporting calendar, the Rugby World Cup. Coming up, hosts France have invested heavily in their national side. Can Les Bleus reap the rewards? Team in turmoil. 4 years ago, England lifted the cup. Now they're ranked 7th in the world, but the champions haven't given up hope of retaining the trophy. A nation expects. Can tournament favourites New Zealand finally live up to the considerable hype? And also this week, worth a try. Why Asian women are joining the stampede to play rugby for their countries. But first, we're here for rugby union, a sport which demands strength, unflinching physicality and can occasionally boil over into brutality. It's played over 6 continents in 100 countries, but only 20 could reach the prestigious World Cup. Hosts France are a proud rugby nation. Their coach Bernard Laporte was recently appointed junior sports minister after leading his side to their second successive Six Nations title, retaining their crown as champions of the Northern Hemisphere. Welcome to Marcoussis, located just a 30-minute drive from the Stade de France in Paris. Behind these gates lies a glaring example of the respect held for the sport of rugby in France. This state-of-the-art facility boasts 5 rugby pitches, including 1 all-weather surface, gyms, medical facilities, a library, even artwork by one former French rugby great. The centre all built with one clear purpose: to nurture the next world champions.
There's lots of excitement. I said to my players, I told them it is the event of our lives to play a World Cup in our own country. It is the most beautiful thing for us. We have to savour it with the necessary excitement, but with serenity as well.
There's no doubting France's European credentials. Laporte has led his side to win the last 2 Six Nations titles, the team boasting a wealth of experience.
Our 2 captains, Raphael Ibanez and Fabien Pelous, are our strength. Raphael because he's had some great moments in the French team. He retired from international rugby, then he decided to play again, and he had a beautiful comeback. And Fabien Pelous is Fabien Pelous. He's been the cornerstone of French rugby for the last 15 years.
The World Cup hosts hold the obvious home advantage, significant considering they have an intimidating record, losing just 6 of their last 22 home internationals. But France have been drawn in Pool D, renamed the Group of Death. It boasts 3 of the top 6 nations, and only 2 teams can progress to the quarter-finals. France, ranked 3rd in the world, will see Ireland ranked 5th as their toughest rivals. But they've only managed to beat Argentina, ranked 6th, once in their last 5 meetings. And unfortunately for Laporte, this is the team the hosts will face in the World Cup opener.
It won't be easy at all. Argentina are a very good team. We've been drawn in a very difficult pool with a very strong team in Ireland as well. But when we start a competition like this, a competition everyone wants to win, then you have to beat everyone.
Yet it will be Ireland Les Bleus fear the most.
The Irish are courageous, very difficult to play against. It's true that O'Driscoll can scare any defence. We never have an easy pool, but that enables us to raise the level of our game very quickly in the competition. It bodes well for the later stages when we reach the quarter-finals.
France may be champions of the Northern Hemisphere, but they've consistently been humbled by favourites New Zealand in the lead-up to this World Cup. A warm-up test against the All Blacks in June saw France defeated by scorelines of 42-11 and 61-10. What should have been a chance to size up their opponents only served to build New Zealand's World Championship status.
Très bonne équipe avec beaucoup de joueurs performants, avec surtout.
They're a very good team with a lot of strong performers. Almost all 30 members of the squad are performing at the highest level. That gives the team great reserves in depth, a real capacity to dominate rugby. They've won the last 3 Tri-Nations. They've beaten everyone in Europe for the last 3 years. They're the best team in the world. As I often say, being a favourite in a competition does not mean they will win it, but we will give this team and their players the respect they deserve.
If both teams reach their potential, they will meet in the final, and Laporte is keen to be pitch side when the All Blacks' formidable form is finally brought to a halt.
They are positive and dynamic, but some team sometime has to break that momentum. That would be beautiful to see.
New Zealand, the favourites to be crowned champions here at the Stade de France. They're usually the favourites, but they've developed a habit of choking at the big occasion, and they don't come any bigger than this, the Rugby World Cup. So how will they cope with so much pressure and expectation to claim the trophy for the first time in 20 years?
This is familiar territory for the All Blacks and their fans. They're the hottest team in world rugby going into a World Cup. In the last 15 months alone, they've beaten all the other contenders for the title. But that will count for little if they can't go all the way this time. The world's top-ranked team have only won the World Cup once, in the inaugural tournament in 1987. Once again, they're the favourites, armed with immense talent and depth, but history shows that doesn't guarantee victory. The problem for the All Blacks is that while their main challengers appeared to be struggling for form last year, this all-important season they've come right. Like Australia, the All Blacks' likely semi-final opponents. 12 months ago, the Wallabies weren't rated a chance to win the World Cup, but the 2-time champions have clawed their way back into contention.
Yeah, I think our preparation's been pretty good. I think it's about peaking at the right time in this tournament, and obviously Japan's our first game, but Wales is the big game of our pool, and to hit that game in good form, and then obviously the further we go, the better we get.
You take a lot of confidence from the fact that we have got players in this squad that have won World Cups and certainly played in World Cup finals. So we're just, as a young guy in the squad, just trying to feed off them as much as possible.
Australia's build-up has been hampered, though, by media speculation of a rift in the camp. Something not unusual for the other Southern Hemisphere power, South Africa. The Springboks are constantly battling off-field political issues and controversies, but like the Wallabies, they've emerged in World Cup year with a formidable side. They've drawn a tough pull, though. They come up against England and bruising Pacific Island sides Samoa and Tonga. Wayne Hay, Al Jazeera.
4 years ago, England lifted the Rugby World Cup for the first time. Within months, their team had been decimated by injuries and retirements. Since then, the English have been in free fall, dropping to 7th in the world rankings. The defending champions go into this tournament with few expectations on their shoulders, and World Cup winner Lawrence Dallaglio believes that could play to his team's advantage. Just seconds remaining, Johnny Wilkinson drills over a perfect drop goal, propelling England to World Cup glory. But recently there has been little to celebrate, England winning only 5 out of their last 14 internationals. Lawrence Dallaglio is one of only 11 members of the World Cup winning squad selected for 2007. At 35, his experience is considered invaluable to this team in transition. Lawrence, what can we expect from the England setup in 2007?
Well, I think since 2003, England have not been without their problems. Obviously, when you get to the very top of English rugby, it's very hard to stay there. And England had a group of players which, took them to the top, and a group of coaches. And perhaps the way we planned for life after the World Cup in 2003 wasn't necessarily the best. And we've not only fallen, but we've fallen reasonably dramatically in the sort of 2 years since. But I think the pieces are slowly being picked up, and since Brian Ashton's taken over, all of a sudden a lot of the players, a lot of the best players in the country are suddenly fit again. And as you say, England fans haven't had a huge amount to shout about, but certainly the signs are promising that England are getting back to some sort of strength within the team, and possibly the fact that people aren't necessarily expecting too much from England in this World Cup. We've got to try and use that to our advantage.
Unlike Dallaglio, many of Sir Clive Woodward's stalwarts retired from the game following the World Cup. As a result, 19 new players have been brought into the squad, supported by a strong England backbone.
Well, England have got the sort of established group of players like Johnny Wilkinson, Phil Vickery, you know, Martin Corries that have been around a long time. Perhaps some players that people don't know about, Paul Saki, Daniel Hipkiss in the centre, Andy Farrell. You know, he's a player that everyone knows about in rugby league, but you know, has a huge amount to offer rugby union. So there's always one or two surprise packages in the Rugby World Cup, and I hope, you know, quite a few of those turn out to be English.
Some players who were out of form seem to be coming back into form at exactly the right time. We saw a very impressive display against Wales where we saw the forwards really coming into attack, especially after the last World Cup where so many points came from the boot.
Well, I think any rugby player will tell you all he wants is to win the game. Doesn't really mind where the boot, you know, where the points come from, whether it's Johnny Wilkinson's boot or whether it's, you know, try scored by the wingers or by the forwards. So I think it's having that flexibility, and the game against Wales, you know, was about putting some foundations into place, and obviously we want to grow and develop as a team and have that flexibility that we can score hopefully in a number of different ways, whether it's by penalty, by try, by drop goal, whatever. And there's no doubt that in the World Cup itself, games will be won and lost by being able to execute the simple things very, very well.
Now, of course, you're in Group A. Your biggest test will be against South Africa. Why are they such a formidable team?
Because they have everything in the armoury, you know, to do very well in the World Cup. They're very physical. They've got a very strong set of forwards. They've got, you know, lightning quick backs, and you know, they're a team that are definitely playing with a lot more confidence now. So you know, we've had some amazing tussles against South Africa. We have a history, you know, of playing good rugby against them, and vice versa. So no, they'll be there or thereabouts, and I think that you know, they'll definitely be a focal point for England and for a lot of other teams during the World Cup.
And your thoughts on New Zealand? They always seem the pedigree team coming into the World Cup season, or for it to fall apart somewhere. Could this be New Zealand's year?
Well, certainly the form book would suggest that New Zealand is still the #1 team in the world, and even though they had a very, very small blip on their chart in losing to Australia, they are still the #1 team, and it's their, you know, it's everyone has to beat them if they want to win the Rugby World Cup. They've got seems to be amazing power, a lot of flexibility, a lot of speed, a lot of mobility in their team, and they've got one of the very best coaching setups in world rugby. So I don't see that a lot has changed even in the build-up to the Rugby World Cup, and you know, New Zealand will be there or thereabouts if not win it. But then again, you know, the World Cup is about one-off occasions, and if one team, you know, gets it right on the day, there's no reason why they couldn't win as well. So it makes it quite an open and fascinating World Cup. But certainly New Zealand have been setting some very, very high standards in the last couple of years, and they're a team that, you know, from a personal point of view, I respect enormously.
As ever, you can keep up with all the latest sports news on our website, aljazeera.net/English. And don't go away, because coming up after the break, making their mark, why more Asian women are taking up rugby. Plus, we'll look at one of the teams looking to spring a surprise at the Rugby World Cup.